Everyone, my name is Councillor Jays and I will chair tonight's meeting. Electronic devices. Can participants please keep their cameras and microphones off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. This meeting is being live cast and the recording will be retained on the council website. The following Swabrow council officers are in attendance. On my left, I have the Director of Regeneration Neighbourhoods, Emma Wiggins. Inga Lorraine, the Capital Projects Manager. Online, we have the Service Improvement and Project Manager, Andre Bowen. And we have the Active Travel Coordinator, Michelle Anderson. And Policy Engagement Officer, Jane Bell. We also have online one of our KCC councillors, Maxwell Harrison. Do we have any parish and town council in attendance tonight? Would you like to introduce yourself? Hello. We got Mike Brown over the back. What was your name, sorry?
Louise Fitters.
Yep.
Lakeside Parish Council.
Okay. Hello.
James Morris of the Morgan Parish Council.
Okay.
John Redden, the Mixed Parish Council.
Okay, thank you very much. If you'd like to speak on any item, please raise your hand and I'll invite you in turn to speak. Likewise, anyone attending remotely, please mute their microphones until they ask to speak and indicate on the instant messenger or raise your hand button if you wish to speak. Item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. Please be aware of the evacuation procedures following the event of an emergency. There's no scheduled test of fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions via the fire escapes and assemble outside as directed and await instruction before you enter the building. Should anyone require assistance in the evacuation building, please indicate now. Thank you. Are there any apologies, Janet?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Harrison, Councillor Moore, although she is online, Councillor Neal and Councillor Tucker. Has anybody heard from Councillor Booth? Whether you've sent apologies? Peter Marchington, Tara No, Ashley Shield. And we know that Councillor Worcester will be getting here late.
Councillor Moore.
Yeah, apparently Councillor Booth has sent his apologies and Councillor No is, I think, working late, so she's not going to make it, so she sends her apologies.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on this agenda? No, in that case we move on. Agenda item 4 is the minutes. Does the member agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July 2025, minutes number 213 and 228 as a correct record? Good. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the consultation on public toilets. We have the Service Improvement and Projects Manager, Andre Bowen, who's joined us online, is going to give us a presentation on the public toilets consultation.
Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name's Andre Bowen, and I'm the Service Improvement and Project Manager here at Silborough Council, and I'll go through my presentation today about the public toilets facilities consultation. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Okay, great. Next slide, please. So this presentation will show the facilities currently within Swale, the different ways in which the service could be delivered, what we think is the most reasonable option, the consultation process, how the final decision will be made, and at the end, I am happy to take note of any other suggestions or respond to any questions as best as I can. Next slide, please. So we currently operate 16 public toilet facilities across the borough. Here they have been divided by area committees. And as you can see, we have quite a few in the Sheppey area. Next slide, please. We want to make savings that will help the council reach a balanced budget position. So we've explored the benefits of delivering all the services in-house. We've explored continued outsourcing. We've looked at the option of closing all toilets. An alternative was charging for the use of public toilet facilities. The other option considered was transferring public toilets facilities to town or parish councils and some other appropriate organizations. And we also looked into the community toilet scheme model. Next slide, please. So it is difficult to choose one option as they all have their disadvantages. As such, we think the right mix is to transfer to town and parish councils and other local organizations who are able to effectively keep public toilets open within their respective areas and to respond to local demand. The proposals include closing 3 facilities out of a list that have low use, may have significant future refurbishment costs, and ongoing maintenance. Also to introduce a community toilet scheme by partnering with local businesses that will offer the public free of use their facilities during normal opening hours, and to continue to operate the remaining 6 toilets outsourced. Next slide, please. Now, the point to stress here that these are just proposals. At this stage, we want to have the views of Swale residents, visitors, community groups, and businesses. To ensure we make as many people aware of the consultation as possible, we have put posters in all the toilets. We have posters in all our offices along with paper forms. We've published the details on our website and social media. We've shared with local press. We've also contacted local community organizations, businesses, town and parish councils. But last but not least, we're also doing presentations at all area committees. We've also extended the consultation period for as long as possible. Area committee chairs are also welcomed to provide a response for the toilets that are in unparished areas. Next slide, please. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our public toilet facilities operate in the best possible way for the future. In doing so, we will review the views expressed in this consultation. We'll look at the location of facilities, the amount of people who visit daily, the cost to operate, the condition, the amount of antisocial behavior reports, and what other local authorities are doing currently. The information gathered will be carefully considered by councillors before any final decisions are made. We're committed to ensuring that the local voices of local communities are heard and reflected in our decision making. And I encourage you to complete the survey if you haven't already done so. So to the final slide, please. That concludes the presentation. And I'm happy to make note of any other suggestions or answer any questions where I can.
Okay, thank you. First up, I have Councillor Tom Lundy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have an issue with the consultation itself because it's quite poorly written, and one of the questions is really unfair for people that live in stuff. So it's question number 2: which, if any, of the following public toilets do you use regularly? And the options are the Library Car Park in Sycamore, the Forum Sycamore, Milton Regis High Street, the Spinny Lanes down, White's House, Minster. Now, the uses that you could put down is daily, in the last week, in the last month, in the last 6 months. But I would have thought that someone at Scarborough Council writing this consultation would know that nobody would be able to tick daily, in the last week, in the last month, or in the last 6 months, or the White House and Minster, because those public toilets have been shut for about 6 or 7 months. So why is that question even in there? That is going to really skew data and really skew the results that come out of it, and potentially mean that public toilet in Minster that is used regularly by the rest of it, or was used regularly by the rest of it that I represent, because the survey itself is constant.
Okay.
Councillor Donald.
Yes, I could carry on that one in that eventually I was allowed to go and inspect. And in fact, the so-called structural problems are really the walls on the outside. There's nothing to do with the inside. I've got a lot of experience in construction, and yes, okay, they could have been refurbished a bit, but the whole of Sheppey is supposed to be a tourist area. Yeah. And frankly, people coming in, it's appalling to decide that they've got to find a pub somewhere or somewhere that's open. I think that's a disgrace, frankly. And our ancestors bought and paid for those toilets to be provided. I'm obviously a taxpayer in Sheppey, and I expect certain services to be maintained. I know they're not a statutory one, but we could say, okay, all right, everyone out, shut the dockyard gate. If we don't want any tourism at all, or people visiting here, then you claim to shut them. But I think that's pretty appalling. There are certain things that local authorities have or ought to provide, a reasonable standard. And if you're losing money on them, I don't know how, but maybe your contracts are not tied up to it. But I think, certainly I wouldn't expect any of these to be closed unless you take responsibility for no tourism, and then all the businesses that are connected with tourism going out of business. So that'd be even worse. So there is a responsibility. Anyway, thanks very much. I'm not took place in meetings. I'm not criticising. I don't think it's terribly well thought through. Thank you.
Okay, lady behind you.
How undone the Disability Act 2010 is a disabled person able to go to the toilet freely if there's no toilet, go.
Councillor White.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I have to agree totally with Councillor Lundy at the back. I found the questionnaires lacking or clear than that. I think Tom put it much better than I could possibly put it. The disability point, I think, is such an important one. We are trying to encourage people, and we're trying to say to everybody in the world, sway as the case to come, regardless of any disability you may have, you're welcome. We will make you welcome, and you will have a good visit, and you will enjoy your time here. You cannot enjoy your time here if you rely on public toilets being open, if they are not there. And other seaside towns are going on these routes, which I think, I agree with Councillor MacDonald, it's the wrong way to go. Other seaside areas are doing the same thing. and they are seeing a drop off. And people are simply not going to visit because they can't rely on being able to use a public toilet when they get there, and they need it. So I think the consultation is what it is. It will come up with the figures it does. I think the figures will be skewed for a reason that Tom has said quite rightly. And I do think that we should be looking to keep as many of these facilities open as we possibly can, and finding the money. We can't find a few £1,000 somewhere else to make sure that these facilities stay open, and I think that's a pretty rum deal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Nurdon or Lundy, do you remember how much someone said the purple pound was worth to the tourism industry? It was at the area committee. It was billions, wasn't it? I can't remember how many billions, but
It was a lot.
was it 3 or 7 billion is worth to the UK tourism industry? So it is a lot of money, but we want to see come here. James?
One of the things that worries me about the toilets and all that is, in particular, we've got quite a few car park up there. You look over the bank, it's a mess. With human excrement and water. It's just a disgrace. And we're trying to promote tourists here. We as a parish council go out and clean the beaches and all that. Are we expecting, because there's no toilets, to clean that up as well, for nothing, by the way, it's voluntary?
I mean, I want to obviously give Andre the opportunity to respond, but I'm happy to jump in as well. Andre, is there anything you want to say or you want me to add?
So I do welcome all the comments, so thank you very much for that. I do just want to make note that we have looked at the visitors' data for all toilets. So even though the survey asks which toilet was used in the last 6 months, etc., we have been monitoring toilet usage for all the toilets. Also, in terms of the point of disability, we are reaching out to all local community organizations, and we are seeking the feedback from all community members that use the public toilets. So if there are particular points that should be raised regarding how it affects their individual circumstances, please share, and we will consider every input during the consultation process.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what I would say is that this review was something that was asked for officers to look at. We've been really clear that we want to be able to do this with as much data and evidence as possible. Councillor London, totally take your point, and I will feed that back. But I think, as Andre said, that wasn't necessarily a straightforward question. However, we do obviously have some data that we were using pre-closure. And I think, yes, this is a borough-wide survey. Yes, obviously, we're here today to talk about Sheppey in particular. You have more organised toilets, and I think that's a reflection of the fact that there's a tourist industry actually in terms of the island. You will recall that actually has been through administration as was investment in some new facilities actually on the island. So there are some really new and good, I would say good facilities that have been added. I think the challenge that we have, and that's why all the data is going to be really important to feed back to your views, because there are some toilets across the borough. The White House has been identified, I think that's true to say, on Sheppey, that aren't in good condition. Now, I appreciate that doesn't necessarily mean they're not used. However, we have to weigh that into account in terms of the fact that are they being used? Is there an option in terms of that facility through the condition survey, looking at what the options are? So this is very much a consultation. The committee has asked officers to go away and look at it as an options appraisal. As Andre said, there are no decisions that have been made, other than, at the moment, the committee did make a decision to reduce the funding that goes towards public toilets within the council budget. So that was a decision that was taken. So in a way, that is something that should this consultation and the information that we get come to a certain conclusion, then that needs to be also considered. So I think there is no done deal and there is no one fixed answer. I think we just have to be mindful that there are costs associated with running toilets that are not in great condition. However, we want to make sure that there is facilities within the areas so that we can have access. Absolutely. And that's why if there are businesses within the area instead that are willing to give their better facilities free of charge, let's say, then actually isn't that potentially an option? It's not necessarily guaranteed, but that will into all those things. And absolutely, the qualities impact assessment will be and has been done because we know that this is potentially impacting on certain groups because should there be closures, what happens? So absolutely, it's a very serious matter. So it's lots to consider and lots that members of the Environment Committee will be considering as part of this consultation. So I hope that's reassured you.
Sorry, I was a bit late to the meeting. I actually just want to ask because one of your last meetings is about the problem and how much it was to run with it. First of all, in case I missed it, how long it costs to work out about surveying?
So Andre might want to jump in, but my understanding is that obviously we have at the moment a contract with an outside agency that is responsible for helping us, or basically clean and maintain. We do have attendance at some, but not all of our toilets, particularly the new ones, and I've got a bit more experience of this in terms of some of the new ones we've put in. They've got the, there you go, the radar keys, but of course it's looking at, you know, how that works out in terms of contract costs. So it's the cost that we currently have within our council budget.
Yeah.
Which is why, apologies, I am going on a bit, but why it's important to also have conversations with parish, town councils in areas. That's not to expect them to be able to take that on willy-nilly or without necessarily any funding, but it could provide an alternative provision because that out of the bureaucracy of the council, it could be more efficient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what I was doing, so I saw the White House funds, and I think it cost about £4, I think, in comparison to the shares funds, which were a lot cheaper. I did speak to the attendant at one of the toilets, because the shares toilet, and I did ask her how they worked it out. She wasn't 100% sure, but she said survey was done last year, where it counts how many people going to the toilet. Then I looked at that fair and true reflection of the people buying in storage shares around the kids. You know, I'm not really much of children, but I'm not using the toilet of kids. That automatically calculates the people potentially when actually only one person using the toilet, compared to say the leads at the beach where you might have one person scoot across the road and use the toilet while the family looks after the children or whatever on the beach. That was one of the points. And I'm also here on behalf of the local Stoner group that I run. There was some concerns raised about the lack of toilet facilities that are open recently. So I want to highlight the fact that some regularly at the last point one and also the closure that the closing all the time garage to food supplies. And then I know some of the days, like there was the day when we see that, for example, there was again 2 working toilets in order that day. The amount of people, there was people queuing, there were children like wanting to go run back to the toilet and stuff like that. So if we're reducing toilets and we're, you know, having the numerous toilets open, they need to be open and adequate. They also have no approach lane, so on the sign that they put up saying it's currently at order, the package, I feel that there needs to be a more accurate sign on the front saying, you know, reported on agency fixed by, so that the public know that the toilets are actually being fixed. So prior to that, there was no radiography at this point. I've also gone on to meet people about the lack of radiography access. And the lead slide, I don't know if that's been done in recent weeks, I don't think we have. And the same to share the beach fields one, again, when the toilet was put up, there was no radiography access. So the our patients that attend the Stone Support Group, that's obviously a minority because there's lots of people with disability or who have access to radiography. Also, at the Stone Group, we met, a couple of weeks ago in Leighton now at the Sweetheart, just as a social. Now, not having the toilets at the leagues, was problematic because then people with additional needs need to be looking for additional help requirements. I think about the time it's going to take them realistically to walk down to the other end to the toilet, and then to allow them and then want to get back. And some of our water members actually struggle with that, and they say about the needs. And then they come up with a suggestion on, well, actually, maybe we could go to the park, and if you're not playing the sand, park won't kids come in sand to use it. But basically, we're going to use the park, but actually, the park didn't open until 12 o'clock, so there was no toilet access about that, one of White House. Obviously, if it's unsafe, or there's issues with White House, totally understand that, but then maybe a consideration of having a single toilet, I think never a single done one recently or something like that, where people had some ground and access to people with very low people. So, suggestion. That's just me thinking back on our patients of the same.
Thank you, and thank you for coming, and thank you for feeding back and giving the details afterwards. I can ensure that the current issues that you've raised get fed back.
Yeah.
So Baldwin Parish Council recently built their own one, and on the radar keys, if they haven't been done, they're in the workings at the moment.
Well, yeah, I'm involved with one has been done. I haven't quite a bit to do with because some conditions on red down to Friday, the rest time playing that it was out of the yard. But when we try to keep the open anyway, so.
I know this week, all 5 toilets at Bottom's Point are working again. I think with your idea of signs of when it, expanded, it's done it, so it should actually come sign why it's out of order.
But even that transparency, saying this toilet's been vandalised, if reported on this day, after we will fix on this day. I've personally filled out the standing time, it's on there, like the toilet's been closed, and I've put down there, because the toilets, toilets anyway, you can't just expect people should just use them during the day. People who work on some out in the evening, why should that be included from the evening toilet? Having the radar key is useful, but I don't have transparency and under the time and estimate the date when it could be fixed. Like I say, when I scan the code, that's not toilet report of the day, it's a toilet roll, there's so, especially what I was point one. I haven't got your own feedback from reporting that to say we've heard this or, could you further clarify that?
Okay, we've got Maxwell Harrison from Cases Online. Are you going to offer to take on the public toilets?
I can do, Chair, if you want me to. No, good evening all, and apologies for not being able to be there in person tonight. Just a quick question in terms of the data you've been talking about. I mean, how much weighting does each of things, for example, like usage, actually equate to? Because in the spirit of the point raised by Councillor Whiting, to me, it's a moot point fundamentally. Even if a toilet facility isn't used often, it should still be used and provided and an open space for potential tourists. If we talk about removing spaces like this, tourism is going to take an impact. So I'm deeply concerned, and I want to sort of get clarity on the weighting of the data, Mr. Bowen, you were talking about.
So we will apply equal weighting to all the points mentioned. So we are looking at what other local authorities are doing, but we're also looking at the cost condition of the toilets themselves as well. So there are a few things we are taking into account when coming to our overall recommendation for councillors to make a decision.
So sorry, I'll let Mr. Whiting go first.
No, so I'll speak in a minute. Thanks, Maxwell. Do you want to carry on? I was trying to get the chairman's attention to speak in a second.
Thank you. I mean, it's all well and good having equal weighting, but in terms of the actual economic impact of what could actually accrue to the area, has that actually been fundamentally undertaken? Because I haven't seen that thus far.
So it is something that will be addressed in the final report.
So we don't have any economic impact assessment now?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've got a gentleman over there.
Yeah, I used to be an equal waste collector, taking waste from ladies' sanitary bins and yellow native bins. The two places I used to fill with the city, and I found people toilet, and I can assure you they are used.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make that
Use
point.
that as part of the data collection.
Sorry,
You can use your evidence as part of the data collection.
well, you need to talk to a company called GR Sanitaries. They provide all sanitary waste products.
Councillor White.
It's a very quick one, Councillor Jay, it's just the toilets are, I think sometimes also we see, when you look at the opening times, it's all based around some holidays and stuff a break. Increasingly, people are coming to the Sheppey to enjoy the beaches during the winter, during the autumn, during the spring. It's not just during the summer holiday. So I think we need to make sure when we're looking at this, we're looking at it in the round. We're not looking at seasonal toilets, keeping them open. If we're keeping them open, we should keep them open. Although, and can I just very cheekily ask one question of everybody, because it is a consultation exercise. Can we just have a show of hands about from people? If you put your hand up if you think we should keep all the toilets open on Sheppey all the time. There we are. Not scientific, Chairman, but hopefully Andre has seen that.
A good sample group.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to move on to agenda item 6, Sheerness Revival Project Update. And it's over to you, either the rank. Oh, sorry, before we move on, there is paper copies of the consultation, for the consultation, on the table behind you, if anyone needs one. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to give you a quick update on the Sheerness Revival Programme. Most of it is celebratory. There's been lots of successes over the summer. I'll start with the highlights. The Sheerness Brick Adventure Golf has welcomed over 4,900 people since its opening in July. Don't think we've been big, but we haven't. It's a really good, challenging course. Like to have it right. EKC College has opened this junior college on site. And we've also had a milestone event at Master's House to mark the start on site in terms of the works beginning. We'll move on to an update on beach. So we've started the works of beach, as we know. We've begun to reconfigure the internal of the building and looking at opening up space, particularly for the GP space, making it more accessible. We started the piling and foundation works. We'll see if you can have a look that the ground floor works are now taking shape, and we're now bringing in the new extension where the new entrance will be. And as mentioned before, the Adventure Golf has far exceeded anyone's expectations in terms of its success. Got some images to show you. Next slide. And that's the internal works. For those who don't necessarily get to the internal view, the top left image is of the old reception area. Just through that corridor on the left is where we will have the GP surgery with its accessible entrances. We've also to the top right of that is sits above the GP, and that's going to be the new studio. The bottom left is where we've removed the old extension. We're now creating a piling, as I've mentioned just before, where we're now starting to take shape in terms of the new entrance. And on the bottom right, that's the sports hall, which is the bottom of the top right image. And that will create a sort of a gallery to the right of that image, so we can look down onto the incoming soft play area. On the next slide, we have an image of a video of the Adventure Golf. Thank you. And we go into Sheppey College, as mentioned before. College has opened its new junior college. The works are ongoing in terms of making the building weather tight for the winter. Windows are going in, and that's starting to take shape. They've broken through to connect the old building to the new, and the works are expected to complete at the end of December, with intakes in January. And on the next slide, there are some images showing the works, and on the following slide, there should be a video if that one plays. Again, is yeah. Oh, hang on, no, who's there? So this is applied for a proposal and the chancellor. That's for those who don't know, get the garden inside. We've been on top of the roof as well, so it's got a really great view, but we've started to include the green and blue roofing, which will help with water drainage, and there'll be some light planting there as well. We've got Master's House, the smallest of the projects. With Master's House, we are currently looking at, they've removed all the roofing, the external roofing, and they will be working on the internals. They will make it into type of temporary roof whilst they're waiting for delivery of the new roofing. We're trying to get the building as close to the ceiling as possible. So what you see there is pretty much as much as close as it's going to get in terms of the end product. As you can see, it's quite a snazzy building, and it will be in keeping the local area. It's modern, but it will be complementary to the main building, the Master's House as well. There are ongoing structural works to the roof. We have to make sure that roof is strong enough to hold the timber frames are strong enough to hold the roof, and those are being delivered on site in weeks. We're expecting to complete the Master's House due to the structural integrity of the building in December. It's slightly delayed, but that's to allow for a building that is robust and it's not going to collapse in a few years' time, and try and make it sustainable as possible. There's some images of the works that's ongoing. They've done quite a lot since July. And then we move on to a quick communication update. And so we're still continuing to work with local schools. That's the secondary and primary schools. As you know, right now they've contributed to the design of the adventure golf, which they're very proud of. And so we carry on ongoing conversations with the community, focusing on how our community services, focusing on how we can engage those hard to reach young people who are perhaps participating in antisocial behaviour in and around the projects, but on the island as a whole. So we'll look to engage them in our upcoming designs for the outdoor gym, which will be a free provision, and the soft play and tag activities that are also coming forward. Social value commitments are also being developed with our main contractor at Beachfield, and that will incorporate a wide demographic of the community, which will include the prisons, the schools, the elderly population, just to get input and their views, and also to support with local commitments and activities across the island, just to deliver some social value elements in that sense. And the other slide is just a timeline. As mentioned before, Master's House is due to complete towards the end of this year, and so is the college, and Beachfields is due to complete next exam.
Thank you. I just want to pull out some things from the report under Beachfields. Works plans to install a new outside gym, multi-use area, toilet refreshing tennis courts and paddling pools, and as part of that, we have a cafe window connected to the paddling pool area and toilet things from the paddling pool area straight to the building. It says here, Venture Golf has exceeded expectations of over 1,000 visitors taking on the challenge between July and August. I'm glad you mentioned about tag activity and shop play in the future. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councillor McDonald, as long as it's about the current scheme and not what we've missed out on.
No, well, and I would say that I'm absolutely delighted to see the improvement on Sheppey College. As you know, some of you will know that the finest technical schools in the country were based in Sheppey, and they were destroyed by the trendies who decided to get rid of them. And we've got numbers of non-employed because people haven't got any skills. And I think the fact that that college is expanding, I've been there a number of times and I know the principal now quite well. But I think this is giving us a bit of a future. So I think it's an absolutely excellent project and it's working well. I would like to go into one of the things, that's fine, that the promenade, which I did mention earlier, as you may or may not know, but we, with the Sheppey Coastal Protection Group, which is a charity and a and a company limited by guarantee, we wanted to do a project in coalition with the Sheerness Council to get rid of the ridiculous steps which prevent disabled access along the seafront. And now, quite frankly, you know, it's absolutely appalling. The Environment Agency, of course, claim it's not theirs, but it is. I'm looking for a bit of funding, probably about 40,000, which is, you know, nothing these days, using local tradesmen to actually do the job. And that can be done by Sheppey Coastal Protection. I'm quite happy to run it for nothing. I don't want anything. But to actually get the, basically what's got to happen is the steps are going to be cleared and some slopes put in, so they require gradient, which is concrete. And it's only a small floodgate at the top, which a local contractor in Queenborough can actually provide for us, and up to the correct standard. The Environment Agency are happy enough to see it done, but you know, get money out of them, despite the fact that they're on £1.8 billion a year, which they claim they haven't got any money. But I would put pressure on them in Whitehall to actually cough up. But if we can get some funding from one of these schemes, I don't care what pot it comes from, but we can crack on with it. People keep jumping on me and saying, why haven't you done it yet? We've done all the drawings and we've done all the commissions, but we actually need a bit of funding to actually put it forward. So,
would like to use two to speak about the line. Councillor Worcester.
I thought something could be taken from different. Yeah.
We've been talking about that for a long time.
I know, but
It's in the mind. You never know. One day, there might be a problem.
yeah, unless we put some pressure on, nothing will get done.
Councillor Worcester.
Actually, apologies for my late attendance or accident in Sheerness, trying to help some people not be left just on their own past an accident, unfortunately, sorry about that. 2 points on this, apologies in listening to the qualification, I'm available for questions. Anyone would like to get in contact, absolutely. On this though, the 2 points that I had was that a councillor at our last Sheerness meeting brought up a bit of a good idea, and it's a bit of a movement that's happening at the moment all over Sheppey, in that part of the secondary projects for the Sheerness levelling up bid was around employment as a part of the reason we got the money in the first place. He would like to see a business expo for Sheppey businesses. And I think that could work really well hand in hand with the Island Forum that runs a extra group about employment as part of that. And I think either with the new pool that's being created at the leisure centre or within the college environment, maybe that's the best place for it, that this could be a really good secondary opportunity for us to bring together young people who want careers and businesses who want employees. So if I consider that as a secondary option, I'm going to be very. And another secondary project that's come out of the nothing, which is due to have its opening in the October half term, is the Moontown and Sheerness Heritage Trail. Sheerness Town Council gave a letter of commitment and support to the levelling up when we first went in. But one of the issues that we brought up by residents is one of the areas is lacking of, which not entirely, but free activities, multi-ability and multi-age groups joining together, and that heritage trail answers that activity. It's 10 points of heritage around Sheerness, so you can cut your leaflet completely free of charge. We want around as a visitor, looking at those audits of heritage, supported by Sheerness Town Council, hopefully extra information on the website, see how that goes. And obviously, we want to invite everybody, if you're available in the first week of October, when it's having its launch, to pop into Sheerness and take part in that. Leaflets will be available at Sheerness, Sheppey FM, Heritage Centre, and anywhere else that really wants to hold them. But it will be sustainable, so
of the initial funding came from the town action grant funding. But it will be sustainable machines can be handled, for instance, with the reprint of the leaflets. It is something that we want to see going on along so that people come to Shewness and stay in Shewness for a whole day rather than just visiting the beach and showing all your islands got to offer all year round, if that makes sense. So they want to help all points. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Nunley.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all the people that made this happen. Was it the perfect project? Was it ever going to be this, this God-given? No, obviously not. I think that we have got out of it is actually really beneficial to the local economy. The extra work at the college, that's going to help more young people that live on the islands develop the skills that they need to find employment, to find a career, so that they can live themselves out of poverty, and that's where they came from. I think the stuff from Master Town, once again, stuff that's been going on there with the lordship, with helping young people to launch businesses and giving them a space to run companies, that's really important because actually, if you are young and that's what you want to run your own business, finding somewhere to run it from, the costs are actually astronomical, especially if you don't have a lot of money. The mentoring people have received there, I know how helpful that's been to people. I've spoken to people. And the effects of golf course, yes, cracking. I was a bit concerned about the price to start off with, but in fairness, that's top. I've been to a lot of mini golf courses, and that's not it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I think if you looked at another mini golf course, like the one in Laystown, that's £5 or £6 a pot, that's not in very good condition. So actually paying a little bit extra to use one in GNS, I think you're getting your money's worth. I would like to see though, because Sheppey is a real area, there are real areas of deprivation on the islands. In fact, I'd say there are pockets of places that don't have deprivation on the island. I would like to see a scheme where community groups or scout groups or girl guiding groups can access that at a lower rate, maybe when we're not in peak times, just general members in the public who don't have a lot of money can apply for a scheme or something along those lines, so that they can take their family to play mini golf. That I'd like to see that in the future, but I know when I spoke to Martin Cassell about it at the launch, he said that that's a possibility. It wasn't something we were to convince you there and then, because he wanted to see how the figures came through while it was open during the first summer. So hopefully that is something that can be achieved. So hopefully the same thing will happen with the tag active when that gets through as well. But thank you for everyone involved, because it is actually matter.
Thank you for that feedback, and it is nice to hear it because it has been a lot of hard work and will continue. And as I've always said when I've been here, it's just phase one, isn't it? If you remember, we said if this could then lead for more future funding, then that would be fantastic. On your point around the concession bit, my understanding is that yes, we were waiting to see about usage, but we did introduce a discount to discount type groups and discounts. So that is already happening, Tom. We've that. So. And we're going to assess how things go now that summer's over, as we think we'll have, we've had such the attendance in August was phenomenal. But that's because it's new and it was summer, it's unreasonable weather. We know that it's going to fall over the winter period, but let's see how that then impacts and what we can do to encourage people to still use through that period, albeit the weather's not as great, and absolutely targeting local groups.
Yeah.
To encourage that, because that's what we want. And, the fair wind, I know there has been some issues with antisocial behaviour as well, that they've been tackled, and fingers crossed again. We will continue to make sure it's a facility that's looked after.
Thank you.
And perhaps during National Volunteers Week, we can definitely do a nice concession for all the volunteers out there. Next up, Phil.
Yeah, I agree. The adventure golf course is absolutely brilliant. My family went on it and we had a brilliant time. In my other capacity of dealing with Cub Scouts and other youth groups, a lot of youngsters are very upset that the skateboard park area was taken away. And they felt that that was the one place where they could meet their friends, play on the equipment and have a time. So are there any underspend that might be used to reinstate a skateboard park for the youngsters? I mean, I understand it was originally built as a community project, so it belonged to the community, but obviously it's now been taken away, and the youngsters would like something put back that they can use, and even if they don't use the equipment, it's just somewhere where they can meet with their friends.
Yeah, if you can come in from that and then anything else.
So in terms of the skate park, unfortunately, it wasn't fit for purpose, as is the equipment currently in situ at the paddling pool. What we are going to do is bring forward the mother, which I mentioned earlier, which is a multi-use games area, which children and young people can access. It is going to have sort of an opportunity to play football, basketball, and it sits next to the tennis courts. The outdoor gym area, which is also coming forward, people will have an opportunity across demographics to actually choose what equipment goes on there. So it will be usable. So it will be something they can access. It will be something that they've had for sharing parking, and they can use freely. So although the skate park it was my understanding that the skate park was underutilised also, but it wasn't fit for purpose, so unfortunately we had to remove it.
It was actually used quite a bit. Whenever I've gone past it, there's always been somebody on it.
I think we
We've
need,
never had to social.
I think we need one sunken in the ground, as seems to be the latest thing, and I think working with our partners at Sheerness Town Council, hopefully there can be some.
I mean, there are lots of other areas that are building skate parks because they are popular, and obviously things like that become Olympic sport, I believe, some of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, well, we've got lots of kids that would like to have something like that they should use.
Should also clarify that there's no underspent at the moment, unfortunately.
But let's hope there is. Dan?
You're doing a good job in Sheerness, absolutely applaud you on it. But there's one thing, if it gets to go up, what about down here? We don't even have a doctor's. We've got a shed for a doctor's. Coastal Watch has turned round and said the pathway right round to Leesden is fit for purpose. I'll take you a walk like what I've done with Council Maxwell and the warden round that area, and you tell me if it's fit for purpose. Because it's not. And there's a disabled woman who will agree with me. So what are you going to do for down here?
But that's not part of this project. I know you obviously suggested.
It is part of the project.
It's not part of this because this is, this is about the Sheerness revival. But I take your point, and I'm wondering who the right agency is for that.
All I'm asking is for people to look at it.
What I would say in response to that, Sharing Survival Project was always meant to be a catalyst for more. Therefore, with the adventure golf coming forward, with all the other activities coming forward, tag and bringing visitors onto the island, there may be any opportunity for there to be additional investments. I'm not saying that there is, but there is the opportunity for this to sort of do a jump start for that.
And we need levelling up, we need the next levelling up funding to come through and bring down this end of the island. And we need next levelling up because there's still more projects that I know Sheerness want, and there's still a list of sort of at least 20 or 30 asks that couldn't make it onto this levelling up project because the money isn't enough. So we need more money from government. I hope our MP will read the minutes of this and hear that residents want more investment in this island. And we've got an item shortly about the Isle of Sheppey Growth Board, and might be my next person to speak.
Thanks. I just pick up on a couple of things that we did. I agree totally with Tom. I think that the management of this, it took a long time to get going. These things always do. But once the spades are in the ground, everything's starting to move really quite quickly. And it's all going in the right direction. I think the golf course as well. And yes, it's a great asset down there. I agree with the gentleman, it is a Sheerness project, it's not a Sheppey project, and that's what we should be perhaps looking for. On the doctor's thing, so I'll just say quickly, I did arrange with a surgery in Sheerness. You have to remember, actually, we've got a medical school in Kent now, and this year, the first cohort of doctors qualified from that medical school, 5 years after it opened, and 40% of them are staying in Kent, which is a brilliant number, and that's part of the reason. What we've got though is we've got surgeries on the island to take medical students on to help them, but then they have nowhere for them to practice once they're qualified. They could practice in Leesden, and that's why we had some discussions with KCC about using part of their family hub for that, with the GP surgery that was willing to invest in money. And all those things happened. but KCC made it so difficult. It may be something that Councillor Harrison could pick up with the relevant people, but they made it so difficult for that GP surgery to invest up here and create a new surgery with other facilities. So I think there's a lot that can be done to help us out the island.
The meeting that we had with the doctors and the parish councils and Max was there and a few other councillors was there, was the town ground. They want to make exactly the same as they've got up in Sheerness, down, but they cannot get the land.
No, but there is land there that KCC could let them have. That was the issue, but KCC don't see it. Anyway, that's another issue. The other thing I just want to pick up something the Councillor Worcester said. We have got, there's an event coming up in November down in Sheerness, again in Sheerness, but we've got, as part of the Island Forum, there's a subgroup, the Employment Forum, and we've got 20 employers coming to an event there. It's in November, I can't remember. 13th. Sorry? I think it's the 13th. 13th. And we've got 20 employers coming, and we've got young people from the schools, both the high schools and the college, and from the job centre are being referred to come down and meet those 20 employees to see whether we can. But so I think there is work going on. That's the second of those events. There was one back in, 2 months ago. This will be the second one coming up in November. The first one was very successful. Has some very good feedback. And it is all about, which is why I'm so pleased this is going so well with the college, this project, is about training the young people up and giving them the opportunities to be able to stay on the island and work on the island.
Yeah. So much. I did want to come back on what you said earlier on, Councillor Worcester. So in terms of the skills aspect, we are looking, before the project's even completed next year, we are looking to engage young people in apprenticeship schemes and in work experience as well from the college and from the secondary school as well. We're working with our major contractor, which was BTEC at Beachfields. We were looking at putting together our own business forum because there is an aspect of what is the economic value of this project to local businesses, with more footfall coming on the island in terms of the adventure golf, there are people coming from further afield. How can we capitalise on that? So there is a programme of work that we're still developing in terms of those social value contributions, and a lot of it is heavily around skills and employment and helping the local community as well.
If I could just jump in as well, because I know what he's going to say. There has been discussion and these are really committed to their social value. But when that was raised this week, we did discuss the fact that actually it's probably best not to parachute in. And actually there are initiatives and groups already running similar things, and we don't want to, I don't feel, replicate and duplicate. And therefore my suggestion was to talk to the Sheppey Forum to see what, because there's stuff already happening. So can they work alongside, add value? Because there's no point just coming in and doing something individual.
Absolutely, I think also that SWAT needs to be a voice in that conversation and to help leverage larger conversations. So, for example, here, who are at the prison doing the massive position, they've also got a social value scheme, and Project Finching has done amazing work in terms of bringing in local people. SKJ's doing it. I've got that right. Another example of local business being brought in and benefiting from levelling up money, but I think what we need is that partnership as opposed to this way of coming in and going, oh, let's do what we think. Because there's also a whole raft of businesses on Sheppey, like, for instance, ice cream vendors, food manufacturers, all of these fairly small draftsmen, all of those sort of skills exist on Sheppey. And sometimes it just needs one gathering element to say, overall, it will be attractive from bigger businesses, for example, like Ports, making sure that they're in there and the businesses from Queen will also have a place to voice talk to. And it makes sense that the local council is involved there, if only because you have regular business areas, whereas actually,
local people, local volunteers, may not be afraid of saying announcements, even a regular contact talking to a business sometimes is the right way forward, so I guess what's going. I just wanted to add quickly though, Chair, that in the event we have spoke to the big officers in Sheppey Town Council meeting just gone, and they have said the ASB and our developments in that PSP area have dropped through the law, and they are ever so grateful. Even though we're going to get, it's never going to be perfect, it's going to be 100%, but absolutely right place for the magpies. The other thing I just wanted to point out, there is at some point coming up the swag play area review, and I think that is where our skate park conversation should be, because at the moment, I don't have anybody else to agree with me. I feel we have an overabundance, and when these estates go up, they provide a play park for the under fives. And actually, that's lovely, but we need a reconsolidation of our play equipment and our areas and saying we've got children that are open. They need to be represented. If it's a case that, for instance, a skate park is the way that children want to spend their time, then a consolidation and looking at where we're putting our efforts and our money for play areas and green spaces, that might be the right conversation that's been. So maybe all board councillors in Sheppey will undertake to perhaps start finding out from their who lives in their areas exactly what young people want from their area. Because we're not talking about private laws, we're talking about sensitive children, teenagers that know their own. And it could be something that we can get our local schools involved in as a way to facilitate the right change, to make our open spaces fit for purpose. Just because the skate park has moved away from the area, which had an exceptional amount of ASB attached to it, I was there twice when it was set fire, doesn't mean that Sheppey should be directly a skate park. But more importantly, we should be acknowledging that children, young people up to the age of 19, actually require recreation in all areas of Sheppey, and it shouldn't be always paid for initially. Thank you.
No, thank you. I know there was moves when we was looking at the open spaces strategy, to rather than planning commission now, sort of the play money has to be spent in a certain local area. It will now be got to be spent on Sheppey, got to be spent city or on fabric. So it'll be wider areas, so it'll have greater use and better benefit. Maxwell.
Hi, yeah, might not have been entirely relevant, but I hope it might prove helpful. On the 8th of October, the Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Coastal Rejuvenation, Councillor Paul King from Kent County Council, is coming to the island. So what I'm happy to do through you, Chair, is actually raise some of these concerns that have been brought up, pertinent points that have been brought up, so that if Kent County Council can assist in this matter, we do so. Is you comfortable and happy with that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Great for you to feed that up to the Cabinet Member. Okay, we'll now close this item off. Thank you for coming, Kinga. Next item is agenda item 7, and that's the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. And we have our active travel coordinator, Michelle Anderson, who's going to give us a presentation on the LC WIP plan and the consultation. Over to you.
Evening, everyone. As said, I'm Michelle Anderson. I'm the active travel officer of our council. So I'm here today to talk about the South Local Walking and Cycling Infrastructure Plan. They call it the LC WIP or the WIP. It's been can't be bothered to keep saying it. It's too long. And the fact that we've gone into now public consultation. And this is just an overview of what it's about and what we would like to do. That's the thing. So what is an LC WIP for those who don't know what one is and what model one actually is the next question. So an LC WIP is really about having a long-term evidence-based plan where a council can look at all different cycling, walking and wheeling improvements for their area. So what we've done is so over the last 5 to 10 years, cycling was becoming very popular, especially since COVID. So actually, there's a real need for one. There's a growing interest in it. People wanting to be more active. So it's definitely the right time to do an LC WIP. So what we've done is that we've looked at whereabouts could we put high quality infrastructure in place. Active Travel England came about probably about 5 years ago now from central government. They give us a lot of guidelines about how to develop an LC route. So we have followed those guidelines to make sure that we look at what national infrastructure we can actually put in place across the borough. So what this will allow us to do is take a real informed network-based approach to planning and delivering the infrastructure that this borough needs. This is the start. This isn't the end goal. This is the start. A bit like the levelling up one, if you like. You start somewhere and then you move on up. So we have to start somewhere. So the reason why it's so vital to have an LCB in place is because of funding. Simple as that. If you want to build a roadway, you want to build a whole new cycle path, which takes 5 miles, we've got to spare a few £1 million. So where are we going to get our funding ones? From 2 main streams. We're going to get it from Active Travel England, and we're going to get it from developers. So without an LCB, we have no chance of getting any funding out of either of them. So this is why this is so essential. So what do our cities provide? The network plans, you're going to see that online if you go to the consultation. Once we get feedback from everyone, we'll actually sit down and prioritise the routes and which ones should be first. And we will follow action guidelines on that as well. It will range through what is the deliverability of things, where will we get best bang for our buck, basically, where the schools are located, which routes will encourage most active travel, that kind of thing. So a prioritised programme will actually be put together. And what you can see online now is a background report. I mean, it's a very long document. If any of you have actually read the whole document yet, it's about 140 pages long. But what I did do is put together an executive summary. It was slightly shorter, but it will give you the full background about how we actually put those routes together. So I think this is a no-brainer about benefits of active travel. Physical activity in terms of health is huge. Whether it ranges from diabetes, dementia, cancer, all sorts of things, depression, mental health, everything. But ultimately, all-cause mortality is said to be dropped by around 30% if people are much more active. But it's not just health, we've also got environment and air quality. So they're saying that just over 8,000 commercial deaths each year are due to inactivity. This was not inactivity, sorry, due to air quality. I think there was a case in London where actually the death certificate, the young girl had air pollution, car pollution, there's not her death certificate. I mean, that's pretty scary, actually, that we're getting to that point. So this would obviously help all sorts of things, not only health, but air quality, tourism, etc. So, you know, this is why we're doing this. Congestion will actually ease up. We all know that during the school hours, 9 o'clock in the morning, 8:30, 3:30, anywhere there's a school is an absolute nightmare to get anywhere. So especially if you're coming from a small village, that's a complete nightmare. So actually, if we can encourage more children to be walking or cycling to school, then actually that's going to be good. But you know what? My kid goes to school in Westlands. I live in our way. He's begging, got invited for July. He's begging to cycle to school. No way. I'm not letting him. I'm the actual travel officer. I'm not letting my kid bike to school when he's 12 years old because I'm not letting him ride from my way out past Bobbing along Peach Street. It's not safe. If there was a cycle lane, segregated cycle lane from my village to Sittingbourne, absolutely you can cycle, but actually it's not there. We don't have that infrastructure yet, and this is where we're trying to get to. Spoke about climate change already. Actually, one of the things I hadn't looked at before I started this job was about the local businesses. Now, if I'm driving into town, which seems to be on what we do between our way and Sittingbourne, I go into town, park my car, I go to the I go to, I get back in my car and buy now. If I'm actively travelling into town, whether that's walking or by bicycle, if it's safe to do so, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to about, probably have a bit of lunch. You know, people tend to spend more time in your local communities when you're actively travelling. And you see this in Faversham all the time, actually. They're a lot further ahead in the active travel journey than we are. And it can increase shopping by up to 40% of local business. It's got to be a good thing. And obviously inactivity, they reckon annually is about 80 billion it costs the NHS. So I think the benefits of active travel, I haven't really seen many disadvantages of it. It's all pretty positive. Well, as I said, public consultation is up and going. Now, we already do have one LCW in place, and that is in Faversham. So Faversham Town Council own that. They implemented it in 2022. So in all effect, this one I'm putting in now that's out for public consultation wouldn't much leave Faversham alone. Faversham Town Council are doing a fantastic job. They're really starting to put interventions in. They have received quite a lot of funding. Last year, they got just under £1 million from Active Travel England by the ACC, and they're doing a grand job. So all I've done on this consultation is overlay the Faversham LC Whip, just so again it gives a more strategic approach for the whole borough. So what this consultation is really looking at is Sheppey, and it's looking at City Wall. So what we've done is that we've used data evidence, we've done a bit of stakeholder engagement as well. So we've identified a very top level aspirational network of future walking and wheeling corridors across the borough. So how can you get involved? The maps are very small, but there are other maps around. You can give your comments. So it is on the webpage now. It went live on the 1st of September. Yeah, you can read the executive summary or even the full report if you like. We've got to spare 5 hours. Look at the maps, look at the proposed routes, what we're doing across. As you can see, they're very town-based, but you know, that's where we're going to get our bang for the buck initially. But our further routes, if you look at the borough, you could have probably 20,000 routes in there all around the borough. It's a no-brainer, we could have. But what we've got to do is include routes where the main schools, where the main employment hubs are, and where the main towns are. So there is a questionnaire on there, you can answer the questionnaire. Or what you can do is that when you look at the maps online, you can actually put your cursor on it, it brings up a pin, and you can actually write a comment in there. So if you know, for example, a certain area is really steep, you can say, well, this is not a great route because this area is very steep. It'd be impossible to cycle, you can upload a photo, give us your feedback, you're the local people, encourage your parishioners to do it and your friends to do it because we need your viewpoint on this. Paper copies, it says will be available, they are available now, I sorted them out last week. So paper copies are now available at the Swell House reception, they're at the Gateway in Sheerness and at Faversham Town Council in Faversham. So you can go and have a look at the maps, they're a little bit more blown up, and give us some feedback on the paper copies there. I'll also be making myself available 25th, next Thursday, at Sheppey Gateway in the afternoon. Is it next Thursday? So that I can answer the questions that you may have. Oh, gone off the little arrow, hold on. Like I say, the paper copy started on the 15th of September, and we're going to close the consultation on the 26th of October. So what will happen after consultation? We're going to review the feedback, so please give us feedback. A final report will be drafted for councillors to consider. As part of that report, each of the routes will be prioritised based on feedback, based on deliverability, based on funding costs, etc. And each of the routes, even when they're prioritised, say we look at the top 3, there's a lot of design work that needs to happen before literally a spade will go on the ground. It's as simple as that. You have to look at, does the zebra crossing need to go here? Would we need to move the lines there? Is there structure underneath? Is there gas works? So there's a lot of design work to happen on each of the routes. Oh, is that it? I think it is. So I'm open for any questions.
Thank you very much for that. There was feedback at the Island Forum on Tuesday that the maps of the gateway are quite small. Were they A3 or A4? Okay. 140 pages definitely felt longer when I read the whole. With the 8.2 saved from the NHS, it'd be good to see some investment come to this end of the island. And I just want to say this is where we need to hear feedback. Sheerness Town Council tell us about Neptune Terrace steps. We need this put in there in the feedback provided. You mentioned about the path earlier between Walden and Laysdown. Again, this is where we need to hear it. People want, Don Hill to be, so they can walk and cycle it rather than be under 2 foot water. This is where we need to hear about it. And as we saw on the maps link up this end of the island. And I've got this lady first.
Those maps are very tiny, you said we can't see them. You said it's very town-based. So there's an irony to that, we're in a village at the east end of the island. Is there a route at all?
Yes.
Because it's impossible to cycle or lays down anything at stage.
Yeah, so when I took this to council, one of the things that the councillors agreed was that they would like to also include the Sheppey Railway Greenway route going from effectively going all the way on Halfway Road and then straight up to this end of the island. So that has now been included, and that is just form part of one of them.
Okay, you know, it's fantastic to say for kids like this, but we are a tourist guide. And we don't just want people to come to go in the arcade, but we want people, I call. And I know loads of people would come here, because I've been on this trail, right on the trail. We have the equipment club, we've got shelters, we've got party, we've got fantastic countryside here. It's not just about sheer haste and laser.
At the moment, there's one that comes up here. So, you know, once we've got a LCW in place and we start being delivered, then actually we can broaden out. This is a living document. This document will be still in place long before I'm ready. So, you know, you can add routes in and take as things are delivered.
Next I've got Councillor Moore online.
Thank you. Obviously, listening, you were saying about getting funding from development and things like that. Already we have issues with getting children transported from this end of the island to schools or lack of schools. My worry would be that with a designated cycle route, it would be pushed even more that children could walk or cycle to Faversham where they're being sent to school.
Yeah,
how would
I do think that that's a completely separate issue in case of the allocation of schools rather than cycle walking routes, but I completely get your point.
I mean, it is taking your life in your hands, cycling up Jenkins Hill or down Jenkins Hill. It'd have to be completely off of the road because also that is the only access route in and out of the eastern end of the island. We had it just recently where no one could get past the Bayview because there was a fatal accident, sadly. But no one could then access anywhere past Bayview or get out of the eastern end of the island. So the road is not capable, and the cycle path should be put nowhere near that road, is in my opinion.
Thank you. Yes.
2 points. First, the public consultation online is not fit for purpose. It doesn't work on an iPhone Safari. I have to go in via Google. You have to come out of the questionnaire to go to the maps to look, and then go back to the questionnaire, and then it kicked me out halfway through, and then I went back in. I had to start from the beginning. It's very demoralising as a consultation that it is so convoluted. Why it couldn't be a page with each of the areas with the map accessible on the same page, because at the moment you have to come out to look. Then you go back to the questionnaire to, okay, that's the question's asking me about this bit. Right, I'll go back into the maps, and I ended up giving up because it was just ridiculous.
I'd say it's very difficult to do it on a phone. Someone wasn't accessible on my phone either, but it did it right, went through the Safari.
But so many people use phones. I don't have a laptop. I do just about everything through my phone, and I do have an iPad. I did eventually go on, but the same things happen using Google on the iPad, that you have to go to the maps, to go back to the questionnaire, to the maps, and eventually it wouldn't let me, and it was just, it's not laid out. It's not user-friendly. And it's also not user-friendly if it's not convenient to do it on the phone. So many people use phones
to do this, such a long, complicated consultation, to be able to simplify it so you use on the phone is virtually impossible.
I mean, just like the maps on the same page as the questions. So the questions for Shellness Laysdown, on that page, have the map with that route. I don't need to see Sheerness because I'm not answering questions about Sheerness, I'm answering questions about Laysdown, Warden, the area that, you know, I use. So having this one map where you go backwards and forwards, you've got to go, okay, which colour bit is it's not user friendly, it's my feedback, and it's making sure the people use it. Secondly, the paper copies of the feedback, why is there nowhere at this end of the island where we can access them? Why is Sheerness the only place?
Is the parish, is Village Halls happy to help? Is your, do you look after Village Halls, a parish? Do you look after the Village Hall as a parish? Because if the Village Hall's willing to
I
take,
mean, as a parish council, we're willing to, we've done it for the public consultation for the toilets. Take paper copies and make them available to local residents. I just think it's very limiting to always be, when you've got to go to the gateway at Sheerness, when you've got Warden, Laysdown, Eastchurch, and even this side of Minster, have to travel to Sheerness to get a paper copy. Would it not be?
Details, and then I'll get some.
we've just posted them out to East Church, Warden and Laysdown
I
Parish.
mean, but you can post out a whole batch to each
Normally parish councils ask us what they want, so at Minster, we haven't asked for paper copies.
We've got paper copies, we will put them in the village hall, we will, you know, we've been out on the streets with public consultation with paper copies, to try and access.
Email and get some other people.
I've got the lady over there next.
Talk about cycle paths, making it easy for people walkways and everything. But to do that, what about all the getting the drop curbs in the right places for disabled, so they can actually go out, or they are missing the opportunity? I go through walks, we take our dog for a walk, and I can't go up that bit of the island because I can't get past the cars, and I cannot get up onto curbs or down curbs because there's no drop curb. I get to the end of the road and, oh, wait a minute, I can't even get in here. So I go all the way back. There's an exit there, but there's no drop curb. How am I meant to go into these places when there's no disability access? I can't go to the beach because there's no disability access.
We get every one of them specific examples and either email it to your council or your.
It goes on 10 years.
I'll answer that one. Last Saturday, Maxwell did a run around, never was he talking about. He's on there just now, ask him, he's got the report of it. He's done a report, he can pass it on to you.
Oh, because obviously Rose Case and C's issue, so. If Maxwell's got that, and Case and C have got that. Got they?
Yes.
But in terms of the routes that we put on here,
One meeting, please.
that in terms of the routes that we put on here, when we go to the next level of design, and there are a couple that I've already had designed for the next level that I think are going to be very high priorities. What they do is they look at, they physically, the consultants physically cycle the route, but they also look at any wheelchair access, any wheeling at all, any disabilities. So even when they're doing like a separate crossing or a pelican crossing, they will not just use a button that a green man will come up. They use something that a blind person can use. They use the tactile pavement. They'll put down the drop curb. So the next level of design for the routes that are prioritised will bear all of that in mind for the priority routes. That is the next stage along.
Yeah, but surely that should be first, because a disabled person is meant to have, is limited to what they can do. And you get people on push bikes, they can do, and walking, they can go anywhere they like.
So what I mean is that when we design them to say what's needed, cycling, walking, wheeling are considered the same priority. So they'll look at cycling, walking and wheeling interventions on each part. They're not treated as separate things, they're all treated equally.
Well, it gives the thing of the island. I am limited to where I can go. I can't even get up into the seawall. And I live up this end. And, you know, it is absolutely ridiculous that I have to follow the drop curves that the council put in, and then I can't always get where I need to go because there's cars parked in the way. And then I can go down as far as the car park in those bounds on the pavement, but then that's it.
But that's a KCC issue. So this is the Swale issue. KCC dealing quite well. But sorry, Chair.
You are next.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree. And you're not the first resident anywhere on the island to say, if you're disabled and you've got mobility issues, there are an absolutely different world in terms of your access. Absolutely. So we have very similar issues. I'm looking at our pavements issue next, and I did a disability mobility study down there when I first became town councillor. And the rules say basically as best as we can. So, for example, pushing KCC on these issues is exactly the right thing to do. And a couple of other things that people have been pointing out. I'm absolutely passionate about access to consultations, and I've literally just put some change around these toilet consultations, to make that more accessible. I'll be following that conversation about consultation access for the LCB. Absolutely. And my concern, Chair, is that when we have these discussions, we can absolutely say, KCC is a problem, Swale's a problem, whatever. Actually, as elected people, we should be just listening and saying, we understand your frustration. And actually, I can only understand it because I don't have those issues. So if we're not listening to people who do have those issues, then it does make me wonder exactly what types of conversation we're having around it and if we're including all of those things possible. So, brilliant, thank you very much for bringing it up. The LC Quick Go, I will just take issue with one thing was said tonight. It isn't a standalone document. It should absolutely be used to inform KCC have its own active transport group as well. But for example, when Councillor Moore brought up this ridiculous thing that KCC sent out telling youngsters they can access fashion schools via the lower road and whatever, we need to have these documents that exist and are spread around different departments of the council and absolutely are acknowledged for their benefit and usage in other areas. So, for example, yes, I do think it does have a place in schools planning actually in the LCW. Absolutely. I also think it has a definite input for town planning going forward. So I hope Councillor Alison is still on the line and actually is listening to this and saying, if we've got issues and it has been voiced out, maybe that's something that should be brought back as a priority to parish council. And also with consultations, every ward councillor who requests copies on behalf of whoever they like in their unit as well. I think really often the Sheppey residents, I did it in the Sheppey village consultation, I've done it in the toilet consultation, I've done it in the Minster residents and Sheppey residents. So I know it's perfectly possible that whatever consultation there is, and I've done it in KCC consultations as well. There's no council that will say, no, you can't have a consultation, you can't hold a consultation, but it's really important that everybody's pushing in the right direction. So, contact your councillors, absolutely, because consultation coming through my committee, I'm also more than happy to make sure that everybody's got equal access to every consultation. Otherwise, I'll sit in that council chamber for the millionth time and people go, I can't believe we have my responses. Oh, I have 14, I wonder why. These are some of the reasons why. So if you're not listening and doing our best, sometimes there isn't an answer that we can go, yeah, we can change that for you. But if we don't ask the questions and report the answers back to you, then you'll never know. very similar issues. I'm sorry you felt like that on their fears. Certainly not the only resident that's highlighted it. It happens all over the island. People want access. Neptune Terrace, people back me up, the living times, marriage reason that coming forward was for exactly the same reasons. A lot of parts of our accommodation units are not actually accessible to the public if you happen to have a mobility issue. Now, that's an ongoing conversation. We tell the way that we want to go, which is to absolutely sort the problem out. I don't want to be leaving here thinking that it's falling on their heads. It's not, absolutely not. So I just want to go that apologies for.
If you say, I know the Walden Parish Council have actually emailed KCC as well, and everybody about droppers and accessible to get onto the beach. And it's all on the thing. My husband actually contacted the environmental. And they said, no, it's not ours. You've got to contact KCC. It's past the buck. We are members of the public. We try our best to contact the people that we think need to be contacted, only to be told, no, it's this department, no, it's them. They say, no, it's not us, you need them.
So in KCC, what you've got in front of you, we're all from Swire Council, and this active travel work, it's not something that districts and borough councils usually do. It's a council function, and we're pushing a swale. We're doing this extra, so this should all be ignored. If we left it to KCC, this would be ignored, and KCC would be abolished along with Swale in a few years' time, and there wouldn't be a plan. So Swale took it upon themselves. We want the walking, cycling and wheeling strategy. We're going above and beyond here. We want what you want. We want access, fair access for all. John, you're next, and then I'll go to you, James.
Thank you, Chair. As a member of the Sheppey Light Railway Greenway project, I'd really like to welcome this sort of WIP, as it's called. We're looking forward to that. Also, I'd like to thank Councillor Whiting for making sure that the Greenway project was included in that. It's very, very important, because I agree with the people over here. It's essential that any cycling way links the eastern end of the island with the rest of the island. I also agree with this lady here. I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to IT, but I can usually work my way through that. It took me over 2 hours to complete this survey using a laptop. I agree, I had to keep going from the questions to the maps, and then I had to go back to the questions and start from the beginning again. It was incredibly frustrating. If I hadn't had a vested interest in being a parish councillor, a cyclist, and a member of the Greenway, I would have given up. And I mentioned that in my feedback to the survey. I found it incredibly difficult, and I need to sort of pass that comment on.
Thank you. Next I've got James, followed by the 2 mics.
Right, in relation to going up to get paper copies from Sheerness, it's only open 2 hours, and if you have to get a bus from here, because not everybody drives, it's an impossibility. The other part on it is, when you say it's KCC, I've been to KCC about the same thing. I've been to Swale, and I get covered to post. Or it's postal, it's environmental, it's KCC, it's Swale, and I've been put round the block all the time with it. No, but what was extraordinary? Young ladies can get on the beach, can walk right there, or can take you a walk right there, and you see an iron bridge, and it goes like that. It's hard to bloody walk over, never mind get up with a chair over it.
Just to come back, the gateway is open between 9 and 5. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, the council is run there. There's somebody for the council is only there.
It doesn't matter, it's literally, you can walk in and it's right in front of you, all of the information, it doesn't need to be manned.
But we will get paper copies out to the parish council.
Yeah, but we can.
If you can get them, the parish council, you know, put it through the way.
Okay. Mike Brown next.
Yeah, I think it's normal, or if you can get them to me, I can give them my address.
Okay, Mike's talking now.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I think John's mentioned it about cycling. We're concerned about cycling. Are you looking at off-road cycling only? Because I'm very dubious about encouraging cycling, particularly east and in the island. The roads that I'm not conducive. I've cycled all my life, I've given up now. Because I've had so many near misses on the lower road, Jenkins Hill and Bell Road.
I fully agree with you. I'm completely on your page on this. So actually travelling with guidance is that cycling and walking and vehicular traffic as much as possible and as much as is physically possible should be segregated.
Yeah.
So when we get to the design stage of coming up to this end of the island, we'll look at the farmland either side of the road, for example. Don't necessarily think that a cycleway or walkway or wheeling way is going to follow the path of the road.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily what it's there to do. You know, if we look at the Sheppey Railway Greenway, that doesn't follow a road. If you look at the place they're open between the golf club and Stratford, that's nowhere near the road. So actually it doesn't always follow that. So that's the next stages of design. So we have a plan, a rough plan, but then we need to go into how can we get them segregated. So we're not there yet, but it's definitely, yeah, don't think it would necessarily be part of it.
Thank you.
And if we could level off Jenkins Hill, that'd be lovely. Mike?
Yeah, one of the important, thanks, Chair, it kind of answers the question about the island. One of the problems we had originally was that the plan didn't have that black line from Minster to East Church to Laidley. Everything stopped at Minster. The Sheppey Light Railway Group, which all the parishes I know have been involved with, many have donated money to as well to help build the scheme up. Michelle's been incredibly helpful with it, is to try to use that old track bed because it's level, because trains travel up steep hills. And it makes it more accessible for everybody as well, if we can use it. Now, there are some bits you can't use, but the group has already had discussions with some of the landowners about opening parts of their land up to be able to lay the track down. So, but it's really important, I think, particularly for this end of the island, that we gain some support for that long black line that runs from Minster via Bramdown, East Church, and then into Laidley. Via Warden Bay and back in Curly's kind of thing, but because it does take them off the road.
Yeah.
There is no way you cycle safely over Jenkins Hill, but there's no way you cycle safely along the lower road to Minster. And the first bit's fine, because when they built those houses there, they put in that cycleway at the side of the road between Cowston and Barton Hill. So there is a wide, safe bit you can get from Barton Hill now down to the shops at Leach Court. That's better. Of course it is, but we need to see that all the way to Laidley. So hopefully, when people, if they can get online, they can spend the time and use it. If you get the paper copies, the chairman said, if you get paper copies out to all the parishes, that people do up this end of the island really get behind. And I'm grateful to John thanking me, but actually it was our chairman here who proposed it on my behalf of the committee, because I'm not a committee member. But we got unanimous support from every councillor on that committee to include the Greenway route in the consultation that Michelle published on the 1st of September. So we really do need now for the public to get behind what they can, because the councillors are on board with this. We just need to get the public on board so the consultation responses reflect the kind of discussion we're having here tonight. I hope that helped, Chair.
The complexity of the consultation document at the hearing is that does the number of the level of replies you get to the consultation actually impact, and do you take that as indication of how popular that is? It's something that's not.
there's lots of factors to be taken in, and feedback is one of them. But it'd be useful to have feedback to say this would work really well, or this wouldn't work really well because of X, Y, Z. Because then we can kind of change change the design a little bit when we're getting to that stage. So that would be really useful feedback. But also, if you think that actually, you think, well, actually, this route is ridiculous because this would go over, I don't know, a stream that floods every year. Actually, if you went on this one instead, then that would be better. Then we can actually change the routes as well. Some of the locals, you know the area. You know, we had consultants go and cycle with us. They cycled pretty much all of them, apart from the SNRG one, because it's only private land. But they cycled most of them. But they cycled them in a time where it wasn't really cold. It wasn't really raining or snowing or whatever. So, you know, there's only so much, but your local knowledge will really help to improve this.
But at this end of the island, we're only really interested in that stretch. It's really big.
Yeah.
And none of us can know that because it's on private land. All we know is, all I want to go is, I want to go on a consultation and go, yes, I absolutely think it's a brilliant idea to have this site.
But that's why we accept from parish councils, we accept, you know, a letter which will say we support this, or this is what we want. So make sure from all the parish councils, as we're going to do at Minster, we're not going to spend 2 hours going for the consultation. We'll be saying, you like this, we don't like that. And we won't be talking about Sittingbourne either. That's,
as a resident of somebody who's on board.
yeah.
As a parish council, we can send a letter to you rather than doing this consultation.
Definitely, that's what we're doing next week. Yeah.
It's on the agenda for the next.
As it is at Minster. So I'll leave to see us out.
I think we also need to at least consider and know that absolutely children from this area should be able to cycle and walk from Bayview at least to Blaisdell to Rushington and up the road. I'll tell you, every single time I come here, there is ridiculously stupid driving that makes that road impossible. Now, I'm not saying that we haven't thought about this, but there must be something we can do through highway improvement plans to suggest a lowering the speed limit or some other support for that road. I'm not saying this is part of the LC yet. I'm just saying that, for example, if we want actual transport to be something that this area considers, I absolutely agree with Michelle. Not a chance I would probably stop if I saw a child driving their bike along there. And Cambridge Water, because Cassidy needs, they've had one fatality along the local road. And many more over the years, to be honest with you. And it seems to be absolutely more down the centre, not just for actual transport, obviously, but just people having a safety line to use their own roads. And now, I know we've got less police down here, but maybe that's something we could support, because I know Sheppey has got a highway improvement plan, I know Minster's working on a highway improvement plan. Surely that's something that we can share with parishes and just say, you know, are we doing enough to support each other to make sure that we are focusing on the biggest thing? Because some idiot in a BMW thing, nothing over to me, but I just took 3 cars behind me, that's 4 cars, be over to, and I think we're all lucky to come out of that bit of life, to be honest with you. So I think absolutely, I'm going to really point something you made, so I didn't catch you.
You promised to be quick. Mike, has each church got a highway improvement plan?
Sorry,
Has each church got a highway improvement plan?
we're working on it now,
Okay.
yeah.
As Walden, have you got a highway improvement plan in case you see? So perhaps it's worth, our next agenda item is public forum, and one of them is for people to suggest agenda items for future meetings. Perhaps we can get KCC to attend and talk about highway improvement plans. Does that sound like a good way forwards?
We had a meeting, we asked KCC Highways to come to a meeting at his church, parish office. And I sent 2 people over, the meeting was at 10 o'clock. Peter from Highway will tell you, the meeting was at 10 o'clock, they were over at 11:30 because they got lost.
That's not even good, isn't it?
They got stuck in traffic. They weren't
But they have, fair to each church has been very proactive in their highway improvement plan. You know, they've got a one-way system in the village now, they've got speed restrictions 20 miles an hour. All of that came from the parish councils wanting that. And the changes you're making in Church Road going towards Bristol as well. I think there's something going on there. And I Minister have had similar things with Elm Lane. So I think there is a lot of work going on with the parishes. But I certainly the officer of KCC in my time, I'm sure the same for Councillor Harrison. She's very willing to come and talk to parishes at any time about how they can improve.
Maxwell, would you like to speak as you're indicating?
Yeah, just for some time now, I've been trying to get the cabinet member and his deputy to the Isle of Sheppey. Now that was originally just to have a one-to-one with myself, but however, would it prove quite practical and prudent if we were actually to organise, a meeting and an opportunity for all parish councillors, all 12 borough councillors to actually directly speak with Councillor Osborne and Councillor Dixon on these matters? Would that prove helpful? Chair?
Yes.
That sounds good.
Okay, leave that with me.
Okay, right, we'll move on to the public forum. Purpose of the agenda item is, sorry, yes.
My details on that table. So if you can all email me that wants paper copies by next Wednesday, so I'm just in print out, I will personally come and hand deliver them to whatever address you tell me to. Okay, so make sure you all got one at once.
Thank you very much, Helen.
No problem.
So the public forum, purpose of this agenda item is to enable members of the public to direct questions and suggest agenda items for future meetings. So I think we've got the highway improvement plan. Does anyone wish to speak? Pardon? No, sorry, I'm just on this session. Yep.
Two items, just out of interest, if I ask how many council members are actually here tonight?
Is there 5 of us?
Yeah.
But from Swale, there's Councillor Woodford, Councillor Dundee, Councillor Whiting, Councillor Donald and myself. Very poor attendance, and Councillor Moore's online, so less than half.
Second point is about doctors. Mentioned earlier, East Church. You've been told that we're losing our doctor surgery, which is not always open anyway. And we're invited to a consultation at St George's surgery 3 weeks ago. We went to the consultation. And when we got there, we told, well, we've made our mind up anyway. So the consultation was 3 weeks. And that's a waste of time. And when I told them it was a waste of time, we weren't happy. But we'll have a consultation. It's important to know. And the decision is made now that there'll be no surgery in East Church, that East Church residents will either go to Lansdowne for the doctors. But then there isn't sufficient premises in Lansdowne at the moment anyway to accommodate all the extra people. So we're going to be on East Church now. So.
Okay, Councillor.
In this context, but I really think that Phil's point about skate park and then maybe having somebody come over and speak at the appropriate point. I know it's still not even one committee about the play spaces to talk about what suits.
I tried to make it look, you see.
I know.
That could be in the uploads, yeah.
Yeah, when the report is ready to go to committee as well, then again, will be public consultation, and then we will be coming to each of the area committees.
That's all right, we can put that in for a future picture.
Well, yeah, when it's ready.
Definitely.
Okay, Councillor Lundy.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow on what Councillor Mark Brown raised, that's absolutely disgusting that another doctor's surgery on the islands is being exposing. All that seems to happen is services on Sheppey, like GP spaces, like school spaces, seem to go down. But the amount of houses that the government and housing targets seem to want to inflict upon this island is making more people, and I'm not an expert, but my assumption would be that if there are more people living in a geographic area, but there are less services, that means that people already living there, in fact, people that are going to move on, that have moved into those houses anyway, are going to have less access to GP services. So I think we need to really chase that up and we really need to push for it, because a few years ago we lost space in the Minster for GP surgeries, and elderly, vulnerable people being sent to by weight, to go to the doctor, the car drive, people being sent to the, what we've got done, it's piss poor. And people are getting.
I thought we were going to have a meeting about swearing now, one interested swearer is not here. So are you suggesting we invite someone, the relevant person from the NHS?
Yeah, but
Who knows, there's at least 20 of them running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think we need someone to come and actually explain what is going to be done to improve access to GPs on the island, because I just never got to appointment week. You've got told just to turn up. You know, probably got any appointments left to say, turn up tomorrow and go for the best. No, I did manage to get an appointment, I was secondly knocking, but that's not. But that's.
So we're going to throw raffle tickets on the floor and see who gets them next time.
It's not.
Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up it again because it'll be on the public record. About the absolute chaos on the A25 below between Cowsley Corner and Barton Hill Drive. I was astonished to find that the KCC, the previous regime in KCC, hadn't even bothered to start designing the second carriageway, which is absolutely essential for the amount of traffic. I know that from a professional point of view. And so I know Maxwell's still online. So I would like to meet up with the cabinet member again and sort of get something on the road. I know it'll take time, but that second carriageway needs to be put in, frankly. The existing carriageway is grossly overloaded on the statistics. The 13,000 vehicles a day should be the limit, and it's well over 20,000.
I'll let you two take that offline. Councillor Leanne Moore.
Yeah, I'd like to say I was at the meeting, obviously, with the doctors, and it is absolutely, I said it then and I'll say it again now, it's sickening that the amount of services we're losing this end of the island, and all the whole island. All we're getting is more houses and no infrastructure whatsoever. I know Maxwell was there at that meeting as well, and he was going to have a discussion because yet again they brought up about the family hub being used as a potential site. So he might be able to give us a bit more of an update on how much he's got with that. But, like I say, it's not just the doctor's surgeries. We are still pushing for children down this end of the island as well, with no schools still. So it's been what they've been back at school 2-3 weeks now, and there's children that are out of education, and nothing has still been done. This has been since March. Thankfully, at Swale Borough Council, with the motion, that was all agreed by everyone, which I was happy about. But the families are still, and they're being threatened with fines now as well. So it's just sickening where we are at the moment.
Thank you for that. Gentleman over there.
Yeah, on the subject of doctor's surgeries and infrastructure. That makes me smile because Swale Borough Council gives out planning permission for these houses to be built. So why can they not insist on the infrastructure being improved by the builders themselves?
So the planning rules are governed by the National Planning Policy Framework, which is set by government. And although you say Swale give out the planning permission, the second we say no, it goes to the government plan inspector and they go, that's all right, sign that. And so we've stood up against probably every plan application above 9 houses for the island, and everyone still goes through. So the guys will not have a plan system. The government is the developer's charge. Its starting position is yes, and that's the planners. The starting position is always yes, and it goes from there. You know, they sort of back and forwards, and something gets agreed. There's a short time scale, short window, and if the planners don't agree with it, it goes straight to the government inspector anyway, and he goes, that's beautiful, there's your permission.
Yeah, but earlier on, there was meant to be a 40% of the medics trained on the island staying in Kent. Well, they're not staying on the island,
No. It's an ongoing problem.
And I think the housing problem is to find the government, the UK government is to find that because they set themselves ridiculous targets and they won't meet it.
I agree. Councillor Worcester.
Quickly, there's two developments that happened on the island and where actually the health provision has been repeated. There was one area that was looked at with this bill, and there was also plans for a health input on the, sorry, I get the plan, title. It was land opposite Rugby. Now, both of those have absolutely installed. I think the land that was set aside for a health centre on this bill was just torn down and gone.
So-
Now, that has got nothing to do with Swell, that's to do with how the NHS are bringing clinical services
Right.
for this area. And that can't be neglected because every planning application that comes in over a certain size, developers give an amount of money to the NHS to provide health services for the area. Now, a long time, and I'll say it's cross-party as well, it's not just one group of councillors, but since I got elected, that's been a big topic of conversation. Where has that money gone? Where's the accountability? And how do we hold the NHS accountable for that pot of money that never seems to be spent? 106 money, we see where it goes. We see where the educational element goes. It's not always right, but we see where it goes. This NHS pot is and I'll just put one in the chair, because I don't want people to think that we don't share the same concerns as residents. We do. We're asking the question, and the planning system, even though Sparrow says yes or no, the statutory consultees and the statutory places, there's only a 12 has no call over. You know, you can't say no, NHS, we don't want you to have an on here or whatever. We just need to find a better way of leveraging these organisations to bring the answers back to the table. They might have some very good reasons, but if we don't know them and they don't talk to us and we never hear them, then how can we possibly pass those to residents for answers to these questions? Because only easier, we sit there and go, yeah, we've definitely got enough small places on the island, oh, we have definitely got enough dentition, doctor. No, that's not. And I defy anyone to sit here and say that under any elected hat, because if you've got, I'm sorry, you're not worth being elected for, are you? Because it's just not true. Sorry, Chair.
No, agenda item 9, Isle of Sheppey Growth Board. I'd like to invite Councillor Mike Whiting to talk about suggestions to create an Isle of Sheppey Growth Board.
Thank you, Chair. Can I stand up and take the day? You might. I won't take up too much time, we're getting late already. Well, I was quite astonished when I spoke to Emma and others at Swell Council, including the leader. And I said, once we go to the generation of Buck about this year, what's the next big thing to Sheppey? What's the next big investment on Sheppey? So that we can see better schools, better surgery, better roads, better infrastructure, better jobs, better training, and a better society on the island. And the answer is there are no plans. There are no money. We don't have an economic development team on Swell Borough Council. We don't have a budget for economic development that's going to be able to push those big items through, which is to say that's where we are. And the council's got no money and can't do much about that. We understand that. So I thought, what can we do? There's a thing called the Thames Estuary Growth Board. It was set up by the government and it covers an area from Margate right round through London, back out again to Canby Island and beyond. And it's run by a lady called Kate Reddard. Kate was appointed as the Thames Estuary envoy by the government, and she set up this board. And it's got people on there that have got notebooks in there with financiers and international money markets. They know employers, they know big business, they know they've got vital links, they've got government links, they've got those emails, like a bit like Kate has directly into number 10. So I thought, well, what are we getting out of this program? What are we getting over this big layer that sits above all these things? And actually, we're not getting very much. So I thought, what are they supposed to be doing? Because their job is, what they're looking to do is sustainable green development in a whole range of different things, but really providing growth and economic opportunities for the people in the Thames Estuary. I said to Kate, we seem to get left out in Sheppey. Can we not have a growth board for Sheppey? Just a mini version of what you're doing for the whole of the Thames Estuary, including Greenwich and all those boroughs down in London. Can we not have a Sheppey version of that? And she immediately came back and said, well, yes, we can. We could set one up, and she's willing to set one up and make it happen. It comes at a cost, all these things always come, we can't run a bureaucracy, and it would be a small bureaucracy, so it would come at a cost. So I had discussions with various people at Swale. It's one of the reasons I asked Maxwell to get the cabinet member from KCC to come over and have a chat, so that perhaps we can talk about this, because actually the funding we would need is actually quite small. I did the funding. 37.5 hours a week on the national minimum wage is £23,800 a year. The cost of this, to get all of that expertise aimed at the Isle of Sheppey, would be £25,000 a year for 2 years, with a few grand to set up costs. Now, Swale Council won't be here after a couple of years' time. The government's intention, if the government gets its way, the government's intention is to abolish Swale Borough Council. So we need something that's going to have longevity after Swale as well, and after KCC as well, because that's the government's intention to abolish KCC as well, after 2028. So what we do for the next couple of years on the Isle of Sheppey and try and encourage growth, and my view is we could take up an offer to create an Isle of Sheppey Growth Board that had a very focused aims to ensure that somewhere we found the money, somewhere we found the investors, somewhere we found the industrial business, and all the other things, and education is to make Sheppey a better place, because it deserves to be. It deserves all the help we can get, but there's nothing in the pipeline at KCC. There is nothing in the pipeline at Swale Council beyond what we saw tonight down the Sheerness Revival project. That's going to have a big, meaningful thing. And then we're just left at the behest of the developer to come along and say, I want to build 1,000 houses. By the way, I can't afford the doctor's surgery, and I can't afford to make the road wider, because the housing on Sheppey don't sell very much. So sorry about that, even though all these people, I can't afford any more school places. So just live with it, and we're then stuck with that. So I just think this is a good way forward. Now, the only way we're going to get some money out of Swale, I asked Swale whether they could contribute to this. They would require to have a meeting and have discussions and those with their process. But if we get the thing agreed by Swale in sometime in the next couple of months, we can set the thing up from the 1st of April, and then we have 2 full years for it to do its work before Swale, when the KCC hours become abolished. And then hopefully the new authority, whatever that is, could take on that support. So I'm going to KCC support as well. So the next step really is something that if people here are minded to think this is something worth exploring, in the absence of anything else, frankly, then we can, as committee members here tonight, we can refer this to the Economic Development, Property Committee at Swale, and officers can prepare a report for councillors at Swale to consider whether they want to include some money in next year's budget. It is less than the cost of somebody on minimum wage to buy in some expertise that I think could really make a big difference. And we get some real bang for our buck. And if we weren't getting the bang for our buck after the first year, we put out and say, we tried. And if we are, then it's worth the reinvestment for year 2. That's where I'm coming from. So I was going to propose, as part of the council meeting tonight, we refer this matter to the Economic and Property Committee at the earliest opportunity to see if we can get the relevant funding in the budget for next year, Chairman. So I say propose, and I think I have a second with Councillor McDonald.
Councillor Clark, okay. Any discussion? Councillor Worcester?
So, one thing is discussing. It's a really interesting thing. When I saw it was on the agenda, I did a little bit of research, and my concern is that when I've read the Borough Thames Growth Board 2019 document, that is obviously from previous government, not this government, so it might be on different symbols. There is a heavy push for development, housing, and I've got to say, never making a secret that the average development I'm really in favour of the social housing rather than private development. But I think it needs to be a really transparent conversation around what the growth would absolutely benefit the area, because it also talks about really good ideas around infrastructure and transport and things like that. But the overwhelming key through for it is providing housing in high target areas, and the South East has always been a high target area for development. So absolutely favour exploring the idea, totally. And I would love to see anything that's set up on Sheppey really coming down on the lines of we really can quite a massive private housing, really. I would love to see some more social housing.
Councillor Lundy.
Yeah, that's the council was there, to be fair. There are going to be benefits to it, there are going to be negatives to it. But I think what's probably more important than not doing it is, and I'm sure that you would agree, it's worth having that conversation, so I will be supporting that. Because until we actually see what it's going to offer, we can't really make a decision, if that makes sense. I'll support it, but if I don't like what's proposed, as a much later fact, then obviously we reserve the right to reject it. But I think it's important to have these conversations, because I think we've had multiple discussions tonight that suggest that the Isle of Sheppey does still need some investment, particularly around provision of healthcare and employment.
And education.
And education.
I'm in the same boat as you. I think we need to get a full report on this, and the best way is to refer it to the Service Committee. James?
I would like to help you on that, Wayne. I think it's a good thing to get knowledge on it, if nothing else. It'll help to bring the island forward. And that's what I'm all about, as you know, with you.
Yeah, thanks, John. With your background and you're in the industry you're involved in, I think it's really relevant.
Right, there's no further discussion. Scarborough Councillors, all those in favour of referring this to the Service Committee, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Next up, we have the Swale Bus Forum update. Councillor Worcester, would you like to share?
Yes, so the Bristol Commission has come up to questions, they've been fed back, we also been fed back. We had very limited interaction, but there was interaction, which was very big. Those discussions, which was a shame. Recently online, we've seen chalk put out on two major routes. Now, I think the only truth will go back to put it up at the online forum, because often with the publicity going on, what bus companies putting out here. Actually, they were the ones that stepped in the river of the island, and actually have done a good lot for the island, and they're staying on the island, but on those two routes, they think they can do things like a masters, which I think KCC can try and ask the opportunity to have those routes as well. So yes, I'm absolutely more than happy to take more local questions to Bus Forum when it creates so that we can make sure we're bringing back local knowledge with regards to what's going on for the island's bus services. And it's obviously a lot of the conversation is around how KCC can best invest the money that's been given from government, even though it seems like lots of money, it really isn't. And obviously we like the bus routes and also recently obviously conversation has been raised again about the bus. There was in active when the COVID situation turned up. About the actual funding, that sort of thing can't go forward, but we might see some refurb of the bus shelters. So it's not all bad news, but I think the more local questions we can take from people, from the island to the Bus Forum, the more we're going to sort of guide those talks from the bus contractors and from the KCC officers about what we would like to hear through the Bus Forum, if that makes sense. At the moment, it's been they can tell us about what they're doing. I think it should be also about responding to the local people who want to. So, thanks, Chair.
So it's nice to hear that we can have nice shiny bus shelters, even if the buses don't run to them. Does anyone have any issues to direct to Councillor Worcester on buses?
I'm also happy to take emails from parish council if they think, oh, actually, I'm really going to ask that question to us or send it over and obviously raise those questions. I don't believe it should be my personal opinion and correspondence on these forums, it should be all.
Well, one thing is very quickly, if I can, and I'm sure Councillor Wilson's aware, I mean, KCC were given 20 odd million pound by government to improve rural bus services. We managed to get a little bit of that for some of these services to labour during the summer holidays. And that service is finished, but half of that money is the capital projects. And picking up on the point that lady made about things like drop curbs, accessibility, some of that money can be spent on making sure that if there's a bus stop, there is a drop curb so you can get to it. And all of those, that type, and there's a shelter so you can at least stay away from the warm and dry, or the dry at least, while you're waiting for that bus. So there is a large chunk of KCC money that we can spend on that capital infrastructure around the existing networks. Not talking about new bus services, but just making sure that you and others, the chair users, can actually get to the bus stop in the first place.
Yeah, and that thought as an interesting topic of conversation. When they talked about the replacement bus stops, that would be a progressive element to that conversation. Please, they're replacing bus stops, but wouldn't it be nice if that practical application would also be part?
Well, I've spoken to the bus officers, I'm sure Maxwell has as well, but I've spoken to the bus team at KCC who are interested in looking at all that, but I think they just need people like the forum to be able to push the ideas in about where it would be best, where the money could be best spent. So.
I was going to say, what is that? I don't actually use bus because if I go anywhere, I don't even know if I can get off. So I drive, but the nearest bus stop for me, now I'm stopped up, just off the Beacon Road, which is just up the road. Now, the bus stops are by the shop. For me to get on the bus, means I've got to go, I have to follow the drop curve, which takes me onto the semicircle. And then I've got to I'm going sort of round, and then I've got to come back. All on myself, trying to get on the bus. Like, it's, if there's car to park, I think I'll get back on the job, but I can't get off the bus.
I'm not suggesting, Chairman, that there's enough money to solve all the problems. No. But I think we need to make sure that KCC, and I'm sure Maxwell through his offices will, make sure that KCC is aware that that money can be spent usefully on Sheppey. And there are places where we could spend that money well.
Where we are pushing as well as we made by another organisation, not just Sheppey, on that forum, actually, and been a conversation also around Swell. So, for example, it does have a bus stop there, it's horrible, actually. Swell is the legislation is just over the line, and again, very difficult for anybody to use, actually. But it's got great potential, and it's got great potential for potentially our visitor economy, it's got potential to remove congestion out of City Hall, it's got potential for people to park somewhere around the area and then get the train transport.
Sounds like a job for our growth board. Councillor Harrison and Mike.
Yeah, just to make everyone aware, I recently sent a letter to the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport, Peter Osborne, and specifically asked about how much of the £67 million which has been invested was directly going to Sheppey. I haven't yet had that answer. Once I do have that answer, I will personally ensure that every councillor is emailed that figure, irrespective if it is high or low. But with all the pertinent points that have been raised here, I'll ensure that this meeting happens in the next 3 weeks. I will let you all aware as quickly as possible so that you can raise all these points so that we can solve it out for residents.
Okay, so Councillor Harrison and Councillor Worcester, if you can take that forward. Next up is the matters arising from previous meetings. You'll find the matters providing an update in the report agenda pack. I think there's lots of ongoing work that we can hopefully get included or updates in December's meeting, unless anyone has any comments. No, okay. We then move on to agenda item 12, local issues to be raised. I think we've had a very good discussion in the public forum, but does anyone have any additional matters to raise here? Yep.
The mandarins on the back of the hall there, as you're aware, there's contracts has gone out for contracts, but we still have not heard anything about the drains being cleared, and it is a health hazard, and it's a health and safety hazard.
Can we get a flag from Martin? Martin and James spoke last.
Mark has been dealing with me, but I haven't had an answer.
I spoke to him today. I think the other feelings might get raised. The retrofit by the board is I think in public and private ownership, he tells me, but the rest they're on track to try to sort. So he's very aware of it. Obviously, it's an issue. They're working and liaising with those people that they need to get it sorted. So I appreciate that it's not obviously happening and really sorted as quick as you'd like, but it is definitely on the radar.
It's only been 4 years of the going.
What's 4 years, 2 friends? Okay, next agenda item is item 13, matters referred to service committee consideration. So we've sent one to them tonight. And that brings us to the end of our business tonight. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 2nd of December at 7 p.m. and that'll be the Criterion in Bluetown, and I close the meeting at 21:15. Thank you for coming. I hope to see you then.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks.